Even though I'm the youngest of like 8 kids, I actually was around a lot of adults. And to keep me busy, they showed me how to do a stick figure. And that kind of evolved into like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and stuff like that. And then over the years, it became not much of a academic thing, but more of a cathartic thing. Whenever I would have bouts of depression, things like that, I actually would create. It made me feel good that I created something that was beautiful, even though I didn't feel great about myself. And then in like 1990, I became professional. And what I was doing from that point on was just creating artwork for the soul, emotional stuff, more the negative stuff that, you know, women feel all the time. But it was actually on their faces, like you can actually see. It wasn't so much the tears, but the yearning. And let's say about 20 years goes by and I just turned around, I'm like, I wonder if I can create from joy. I was always a big fan of Leonardo da Vinci, okay? And I mean, just his brilliance. And what really got me was that my husband said, you do these kind of portraits, the ones I was doing in paintings, did you ever think of what it would look like with this kind of material? And, you know, that was silverpoint, because it's really, it starts with silver. That's what they were using at the time. I say metalpoint because I'm using silver, gold, platinum, copper, brass. You know, I'm using more than just one. The response I got from the people that I was showing it to wasn't that about me, but about them. And it made them feel good about themselves. And because the thing that I kind of say about metalpoint is that instead of you wearing it to adorn, to make yourself look amazing, what if you were as precious as these metals that I'm creating you in? I want to be able to show that beauty within, because if you look at the way I'm creating it, when light shows on it, it almost looks like their soul is coming out. My driving force, I think, is the fact that, you know, you don't see people of color. You see women, but you don't see people of color in this particular medium that is so beautiful to me. It's so delicate. It's, you know, you don't see people of color being portrayed in delicacy, you know, in elegance. And I wanted to give that, you know, I wanted to give that other alternative. With the piece that I created here, it's so much more about the community that I grew up in Harlem. And the greatest thing about that was that I remember kids playing in the street, little girls dancing, boys playing in the street with their cars, mothers in the window, guys on the stoop, but you know, they were either related or they were good friends. You get your first haircut. You know, all the things that you could think of when you were a kid that made the community what it was, that had nothing to do with drugs, guns, gangs. That's how my neighborhood was. And so, and I know that there's a heck of a lot of neighborhoods out there that's still the same way. You know, it's just that in the narrative that's constantly being portrayed, I wanted to bring it back to what community really was. And I also wanted people to have a relationship, because it's like, people have mothers, people have fathers, people have brothers and stuff. And I want them to see something of their family, of themselves in this medium. And it's like, I want people to understand, no, that Black narrative is not a monolith. And so coming back to that kind of narrative is so important, because that's really simple and yet special. When you're authentically yourself, it's a beautiful thing. If you get a chance to be authentic in who you are, I encourage you to be beautifully authentic, you know, in whatever way you go.